Welcome to Mountaintop Timbers. My name's Gordon Buchanan and today I'm going to show you how to make my little kid's chair. It's made out of rosewood, mainly because I've got lots of it and it's easier to carve and sand once we've constructed it. For all the furniture that I make on multiple occasions, I try and have a set of templates to work from. These are all of the ones for the chair. To start with, you take this one which is for the seat base, and I'm cutting this out of 25mm material. Now cut the shape out on the bandsaw. This is the seat I've just cut out on the bandsaw, and the next step is to glue the corner gussets on, which are these pieces underneath here, which add a bit of thickness around the joint to give the ability to provide shape, and it also adds strength at the joint area. They're just simply pieces of wood 25mm thick, which I'll glue on into the corners like so. Just at an angle so that the grains are running in a different direction, so that it adds to the strength as well, and I'll round the corners off before I glue them to save a bit of carving later on. The gussets are ready to glue now, and I'm using urethane glue because it's very strong, it glues rosewood well, and it expands as it dries. I'm going to spread it on both surfaces. The other good thing about this glue is it dries very rapidly, and I got time to clamp it, but having clamped it, within about half an hour I can take it off. The important part about placing these gussets is that they overlap the front and back ends. I'm going to use 2 clamps on each just to make sure it's nicely down. Yeah, I'll do this one next. It doesn't matter if this one doesn't meet the side there, because that'll all be taken care of in the shaping, but it's important that it covers the front edge. Gussets are glued on, and I've trimmed any overhanging edges so that they're in line with the shape of the seat. Now I'm going to put it in the vise like this. This is just a rough drawing to show you what we're going to do. We need to cut the slots in the seat to accomplish this joint, which is basically taking a bit out like that and also a bit out like that through the thickness of it. And I'm going to do that with a router, and to keep control of everything I'm going to put this jig over it. The jig is now clamped to the seat so that we can use the router to cut the slots for the front joins. Now, this perspective, these are the slots we're cutting, a slot through there and taking off this corner. That's done with the router. It's the thickness, the depth of the cut has got to be the thickness of the front legs, so we'll adjust that so. The jig will take the corner part out, and then I'll put this in, which moves the router the right distance over to do the second one. The routing's done. I'll just remove the clamps on the jig. And there's the front joints all cut and accurate. Now the back joints are exactly the same. I just use the other side of the jig, which is just a bit closer together. Having routed out these joints, front and back, there's these extra bits left on the side. They're not required because on the front the leg actually forms the outside part. So I'm going to trim these off now. Having routed out the joints in the seat, we now got to cut the front legs. We've got to take a piece out like this for it to fit. I've actually got an old leg which is already done, and it's also a good fit, so I can use this over here in the vise where I clamp this in to the top surface here of these two bits of timber infill, and the router wheel can run along here and just take out in one sweep. The important thing is that when I route this slot out, I leave the right amount of material here so that this is a good fit in the slot in the chair. Now, to do that, I'm using a wheel on the router which will run along this edge here. So if I put the router down in here and position it correctly, move the wheel up to that piece of timber and clamp it in. Now I'm cheating a bit really, because I've already got a test piece which is, I know is right, but I still need to actually do that cut and make sure that the router's cut. So I'll use the other end of this piece, clamp it in the vise, and I'm ready to go with there. The only other thing is I need to adjust the height to be the thickness of the seat and the gusset. So I can do this. I haven't cut the full depth, it's just enough to check the size, make sure it's right. Too thick, so I'll just wind this wheel in half a turn, give it another go. Perfect. Now the real thing. I'm now going to cut out the back leg, which goes from the floor to the top of the back brace. I've got the template for it, which goes like that, and I'm cutting it out of a suitable piece of 50mm thick material and carefully marking it out. Just marking where the seat join goes, just tick it off there. Now I can nest a number of these things. I've cut the first leg off and cut it along its front face, but I've left where the joint goes just a little bit proud. You can see there's a bit of material the other side of that pencil line, and that'll get machined off in the next stage. Other than that, I'll just carry on cutting the rest of this shape out, and particular attention to the notch for the back, which needs to be cut out pretty accurately. Now I'm going to machine the face of the back leg where it joins the seat, so that we've got a true face where the joint is cut. Now I'm using this jig, which is on the jointer, which is set to a particular thickness of 1/4 inch. I've previously planed it and stopped at this point so that it'll run over the jointer like so, and when I put the back leg in the jig, this part here hangs below this face and will get machined off as it passes over the jointer. The back leg sits in the joint against these two dowels. The bottom is pushed up against this stop here, and I'm just going to screw this clamp on to make sure it's held in nice and firmly. Alright, so rest the front of the jig on there. And there's the flat face in between these two lines. This is a separate template which is the front profile of the back legs, and it's only really a rough guide at this stage. But it also means this is the inside of the chair, so it will go like this onto the seat, and I need to route out this section here so that that'll fit. Now with the front legs, I've already set this distance there, so I can put this straight in the vise. Something I haven't showed is I've got to mark the extent of this cut, and having done that I can then route it out like so. I've routed that back leg joint out now, and I've got to square off the corners. Pretty good, just needs easing a bit for the width of the depth of the seat. This back leg fits pretty good now, so the only thing that's left to do is cut out this shape here, which will reduce the amount of carving that I've got to do later on, and also there's a bit of shaping to do on the front legs to also reduce the amount of carving. The back leg shapes have been cut out, and similar with the front. It's ready to glue up now. I've also sanded this area across here and just up here because they're difficult areas to get to once it's glued up. And also the back piece I've left, that can be fitted later, and I like to carve the names while it's still off the chair anyway. Just need to make sure the front legs are down fully. Just give them a bit of a squeeze. Because the front legs are a bit fat, it was too big for the jig to go on, so I've just taken a bit of the corner out. Now it'll fit around. Similar thing on the back. It just sits there nicely, and now that allows me to use one clamp to squeeze the back and the front legs in one hit. And there we go. That's the end of part one, making the little kids' chairs. Part two deals with the shaping, sanding and finishing of the chair, and also fitting the backrest and carving the name. To stay tuned, please subscribe, and I'd appreciate it if you could like and comment.